Heyo everybody, Haku here with my read-through for Chapter 4 of Magical Girl Racing Project, or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku ACES. So I'm loving this arc so far, and we only had 2 chapters left. For some reason I was thinking this was 6 chapters like Joker's was, but we only have 2 left. And this one's really short, it's only 24 pages. So instead of doing 3 parts, I'm going to do this one in 2 parts. I'm going to read the first 12 pages today and end at page 13, and then next week I'll read the second half of it, and we'll be on the last chapter already. It seems like we've really blown through this one. So last time it was really good. Chapter 3 was amazing. And then for the last video, the last part of Chapter 3, it was just sort of the cool down with all the other characters figuring out what they were doing after that big fight. So now for Chapter 4, I guess we'll be moving into... I guess we won't... Since it is not much longer, I would assume Chapter 5 is probably going to be the climax and epilogue, because there's usually, for the end of an arc, a really big sort of epilogue thing at the end of the chapter. I think they're calling them, I forget what they're calling them this time around, but you know the things at the end of the chapter, the sort of epilogues or transitionary things. So there's usually a really long one at the end, so I'm assuming that'll be Chapter 5. So I guess all of Chapter 4 is going to build us up to whatever that climax is for next time. So I'm really excited to read and see what we end up with here. So for this arc has been a little bit different. I read the first 3 chapters. I never really made death predictions, and looking back on it, it doesn't really make a ton of sense to make death predictions, because the way that deaths have worked, every arc for Magical Girl Racing Project is just so different from one another. And for this one, it feels different. It seems like this is almost, I don't want to say a transitionary arc, but it feels like this arc is more build up for whatever is going to happen in Queens, because we have the 3 that are named after sort of card themes. So I would assume that Joker's was to set everything up, and this is to be that transitionary thing, set things up even more, and Queens is going to be like the really big blow-off arc. So, yeah, I guess that's what I'm thinking right now. So it just doesn't feel right to make death predictions. I mean, especially at this point, we've already had a bunch of deaths. And even now, for who's still alive, it's weird because it feels like a lot of characters are being set up to maybe be killed off. Like, I kind of feel like Premium Sachiko is not going to survive. I hope Uluru survives. As for Snow White, I definitely feel like she's going to survive. Because I hope Snow White doesn't die at all. But if she does, I could see it more in Queens than I could here. Who else is alive with the other group? Hamuel could maybe die. Shufflin'. They're just clones or whatever, so I don't really think the whether shuffling clones die or not really matters here. I could see Hamuel dying for sure. And then from Deluge's team, I feel like this is again more build up and development for Deluge, so I don't really see her dying as much. All of Dark Cutie's team could go either way. They could be built up more, they could be, or they could be killed off. It doesn't seem like it's going one way or the other for them yet. But yeah, it just feels like this is sort of a build-up arc for characters like Deluge. So, we'll see. As well as the transitionary arc moving us into Queens. But either way, let's start with Chapter 4 finally. I just, wanted to get through some discussion, and I think a lot of you prefer it when I do some discussion too. But either way, this one's called Across the Streets Over the Mountains, which very much sounds like the title for a transitional chapter as well. But either way, we're starting off with Uluru here. Currently, Uluru had intended to report the pinch she was in right now. She would tell about how the Osk faction and some other mysterious third party had stood up against them. The card soldiers, their equipment, the creepy creatures that were fighting against them, the Scholar Magical Girl and the Black Magical Girl, the magical skills of both of those magical girls. She transmitted everything. She told of the attack at the amusement park, and how they were aided by someone with shuriken. Although they were somehow able to escape, despite trying to do what they could, they weren't able to kill a single enemy, and she also told that. Uluru hated crying, but she told how it was. And then, she also told them of Sarami's death. She should leave no details behind. But she didn't feel like it was properly transmitted, because the reply she got was something along the lines of, "Wow, that's really bad. It'll be over soon, so make the best of it, okay?" She wanted the Puck faction to send all the help they could, but there wasn't any kind of sentence that felt like they were coming at all. Even though the ritual was something important, and Sachiko, who was central to it, should be just as important. It wasn't that Puck didn't get the meaning of the message, as Uluru had written exactly how she felt. Yet no matter how she thought of it, the reply she got was weird. She felt like holding her head, and her arms trembled as she glared at her trembling arms. Holding her head'll change nothing. Sarami's not coming back, and seeing Uluru scared will only make Sachiko even more worried. Puck's smile floated to her head. Puck was never wrong. She always showed Uluru the right path. Even now, she won't be wrong. Even without the ritual, Uluru and Sachiko were precious to her, and she would be the most saddened by Sarami's death. Okay, see, I kind of feel like Uluru could go either way. Either she's being built up to die because of her firm belief in Puck, whether that's a sacrifice in what Puck believed in, or whether that's dying because Puck isn't who Uluru thought she was, or she's being set up and built up to survive because of her loyalty to Puck, because maybe Puck isn't who she thought she was, and she's being built up so much so that when she finds that out, it takes her character in another direction and develops her further. So Uluru is one that definitely, from the development that she's getting, could go either way, because the development works either way. The one who wanted to see her feel shocked and wanting Sachiko back was only Uluru, and that was due to her selfishness. And I just feel like Sachiko hasn't really been developed much as a person, but her role in the story has been this thing that everybody's trying to take. So I feel like if Sachiko dies, then everybody trying to take her is like, well crap, what now? So that's why I kind of feel like I don't know, Sachiko's in a place where I don't have super duper high hopes for her. And that was due to, the one who wanted to see her feel shocked and wanting Sachiko back was only Uluru, and that was due to her selfishness. Okay. She probably was shocked. She probably was crying right now. It's just that she couldn't see any of that through a text message. She's heard that noblemen and those who were grand tend to be like that. She was certain that the reason she couldn't send support was because her hands were full. She had to prepare for the ritual, prepare for Sachiko's return, and guard the mansion at the same time. Something vibrated overhead. Cars were passing over the bridge. The delayed smell of the exhaust gas flowed downward, which was worse than what Uluru imagined, hiding down here. From down here she saw a river, the riverbanks, and a bridge. The tall grass would hide Uluru's party. From the gaps within the grass, Uluru could see a guardrail, and beyond that a chain curry shop, and a karaoke place. Sarami had wanted to go karaokeing once. It wasn't that she loved singing, she just thought it'd be fun, and she's never been there before. Stupid thoughts began appearing in Uluru's head. Puck had told them, karaoke places have bad vibes, so we'll wait until you turn adults, okay? And Uluru, who always agreed with what she said, also objected to karaokeing. So that day, Sarami had a sullen look on her face all the way until she finished dinner. In the end, the day when Sarami would be able to karaoke never came. If Sarami were here under the bridge with them, looking up at that karaoke place, would she be happy, angry, or amazed? Uluru balled her fist. Magical girls were strong. Uluru was strong. Her heart would also be strong. She left with Sarami from the institution together. They, along with Sachiko, were scouted by Puck and invited over to the manor. Because they always lived together, the three of them, if one was taken, the other would feel like something was stolen from them and become lost. With the three of them together, they'd find strength in each other. It wouldn't be so easy to take them apart from each other. If one ever got a cold, the other would nurse her back, while the third would provide medicine would provide medicine. If one of them were hungry, the other would feed them their bread and candies. They always held their hands together when they slept, and if someone was scared, the other would comfort her. Before living in Puck-Puck's manor, they've always been like that. Ever since they lived there, they never needed to be. They didn't always need to be together anymore, but Uluru always stuck with Sarami and Sachiko. Uluru balled her fist tighter, so tightly that she could hear the bones cracking. Magical girls are strong, so she shouldn't cry, even if Sarami died. Even in simulated fights, Sarami was always the better fighter. Puck-Puck was worried about Sachiko's future as a fighter and always gave Uluru this advice. Soon you should be able to to just play it by ear. Play it by ear, what does that even mean? But she's never said anything to Sarami. Sometimes Uluru was even jealous of that. Yet, she was still killed. Uluru gripped her hard right fist with her left hand. Uluru had to keep her cool. She had to be like Sarami, always bubbly and aloof, even if there were things troubling her. Magical girls would be able to do that. Magical girls don't cry or shout. They did what they had to do. They were never roped around by their passions. Puck-Puck was going to use the ritual to save the land of magic. In order to help make that a reality, Uluru had to keep serving her to the best of her ability. Even if it cost her own life, she'll bring Sachiko home. Without fail, Sarami would do that. Uluru would do that too. Magical girls would be able to do that. She had the strength Puck-Puck gave them for Puck-Puck's sake. Even though she was crying for Sarami, that wasn't what a magical girl should do. When they were cornered by the enemy, she shouted with emotion. Of course the fact that she was a suicide bomber was a lie, but the fact that she wanted to murder them all was the truth. Uluru's magical skill had several triggering conditions. She had to speak it. Her opponent had to hear it. She also had to believe it was a lie. In reality, all of it has to be a lie. Everything Uluru shouted out was a lie. The enemy believed in Uluru's lie and ran away. Despite being able to repel the enemy, it turns out all of what she said was a lie. No matter how much she hated them, she couldn't hurt them. They were false threats. Her left hand began grasping her fist. How long ago was it that Puck-Puck gathered Uluru, Sachiko, and Sarami together and told them they should live together as sisters? She had told them that she'd protect them all forever. Sarami was gone, but Sachiko was still here. That's why Uluru had to protect her. Uluru remembered that Puck-Puck told her she was the eldest, so she'd have to save them all. Uluru wanted to follow Puck-Puck's orders. She had failed to protect Sarami, so she'll protect Sachiko. Uluru released her hand and looked sideways. Snow White was staring at the shuriken, which was reflecting the sunlight off the river. Snow White was indifferent. That attitude made Uluru irritated, but she also respected her strength. Uluru would have been killed by the Shadowhounds if she were alone. Snow White fought off the Shadowhounds and the Black Magical Girl all by herself, slashing and thrusting with her naginata. It was hard for Uluru to keep track of their fight. Even now, when their lives are in danger, it didn't seem like such a big deal to Snow White. She probably thought the same thing about Sarami's death. Snow White was a professional magical girl who only cared about getting the job done. That's why she was hired, after all. She wouldn't betray them, fail the mission, or tie the party up unnecessarily at all. Alright, now we're seeing from Puck-Puck's point of view, so we're actually going to see what Puck-Puck is thinking here. Uluru had requested support. However, there wasn't enough people to send aid. The Ask faction themselves were all... I want to say first, before I move on, I loved that section. Uluru's character is really, really good. Uluru had requested support, however there weren't enough people to send aid. The Ask faction themselves were already big trouble. Finding someone else to add on to it would be even bigger trouble. An unseen faction leading a large army like that wasn't just your regular enemy. Various factions gathered from everywhere, all aiming for Sachiko. Right now, W City was in a state of chaos. Even running away would probably get you killed, she thought. She thought with a small nervous sigh. Uluru had told her herself, so it must be the truth. Uluru was the type to not want to show any signs of weakness, even if she glimpsed it herself. Even if she was hurt, or had lost something, or was bad-mouthing someone, she always looked tough. She kept saying how it was because she had to be strong as she puffed out her chest. Yet now, Uluru had lost her brutishness and was asking for help. Sorry, Uluru. She said her apology, and took a single potato chip and ate it. Okay. No matter how she looked at it, she was short-handed. She didn't have a lot of people, and there was no use in sending people unsuitable for the job. all that would do was increase the number of victims. So all she could do was make the best of her current members. If she could, she'd want to rescue everyone. Not because Sachiko had a crucial part to the ritual, but because everyone was Puck-Puck's friend, so she wanted to save them. She wanted to save Surami too. If Uluru and Sachiko lost their lives, she didn't even want to think about that. She chewed on the chips. The salty taste filled her mouth. She took a cup, inclined it. The warm cola flowed down her throat. Even this drink had given her such strong stimulation. Carbon, salt. Since she had a body, this was very stimulating. Since she wasn't just a spirit and actually had a vessel. This taste was to Puck-Puck's liking. Not just good stimuli. However, there were also stimuli that Puck-Puck didn't want to feel too. For example, things like losing a loved one, or dying herself. She wanted to avoid those bad stimuli. She hated them. Despite that, she's feeling them right now. Surami was killed. Uluru and Sachiko were in trouble. Even though she had just met Snow White, she didn't want her to die either. Snow White was a rare treasure that she wanted to keep. Someone who was able to crush Grim Heart was someone of great value. She at least wanted someone interesting like her to become her friend, but she wasn't someone who could just be used and thrown away like that. But still, she couldn't send any reinforcements. Oh man, this is really, really good. So it seems like Puck-Puck isn't evil so far. I still trust her. Puck-Puck looked up at the ceiling. A woman dancing in rags was painted on it with a brilliant brush. Puck-Puck breathed out a sigh at its beauty. It wasn't a familiar sight in her everyday life. However, she was no longer stimulated by such things. She was short-handed. Even if she narrowed it down to a single drop, it still wasn't enough. The ritual had so many necessary parts. People had to protect the location where they would perform the ritual. All the items were carefully selected and had to be watched full time, and other people were doing a variety of important things as well. The insects gathered around the sweet nectar as enemy forces gathered around Sachiko. She wanted to send reinforcements to help her very important friends, but was unable to do so. Puck-Puck thought of Surami and a tear dripped down her right cheek. And now we're going to flare. Okay, let me grab some water really quick first. So that was really, really, really good too. We're at about a halfway point for the video, but now we have Flare. She'd received everything about their actions at the site. Among the three magical girls, Deluge was the one who was telling everything that happened as it happened, and perhaps to make herself look bigger than she would have been, she may have exaggerated a lot of the incidents. When she looked outside the window, she could see the raindrops tapping on her window pane. Was it raining where Momori was being held hostage too? A thought crossed her mind. She didn't try to think these things consciously. What's more important is that the weather in W City was sunny, which meant that the environment was perfect for Dark Cutie to fight in at full power. In addition, there was Monoshiri Michan, Glacian, Princess Deluge, and the new types of demons that Deluge was leading, which numbered in hundreds. With such overwhelming strength, the plan to take Premium Sachiko seemed to be in her grasp. Yet, that was also very strange. The Ask faction only sent a shuffling squad with a single commander, no other reinforcements. She understood that. The plans that the Ask faction had were disrupted. Grimheart's incident carried a huge minus against them. They weren't able to muster their full strength, and the commander didn't want to fail them even more and ask for bigger reinforcements. She imagined. However, the Puck faction also didn't send any additional strength. This was strange. Their base, Puck-Puck's Manor, was in the middle of the city. Plus, they were the ones being attacked. The victims always had cause to fight back, the simplest being that their allies were attacked. Throwing battle forces to repel an enemy in order to rescue your allies was a fine reason. Not to mention, they had the means and the geographical advantages. Fla knew of how strong Dark Cutie and Michan were in a fight. Deluge's homunculi were also just as powerful. There was no way that they weren't reported to Puck-Puck. It'd be unreasonable for Puck-Puck to leave threats like that untouched. The long-range shuriken thrower still hasn't shown herself. Even if it was a stealth attacker, it was far too little to be proper reinforcements. The escape of Premium Sachiko and the Puck and Ask factions war around her, and how the magical girl hunter Snow White was involved with the Puck faction, all of it was told by Deluge. How would Deluge get this information? Or rather, how would Deluge's benefactor? That information could be confidential. It had to be someone familiar with the internal affairs of both the Puck and the Osk faction. However, if they really knew about those two factions, if they had access to both of them, then why would they need to use a man-made magical girl or Flea? If they were someone who had that, who was that high up in the land of magic, then they could just use Flea or their own soldiers without having to deprive her of Shadowgale. Nothing made sense, unless the person controlling them is Pithy Frederica, but that makes me think, why? Because Pithy Frederica would also be the one who was behind Ripple, who was behind their escape. So why would Ripple be helping them escape if also the one manipulating Deluge was Pithy Frederica? That doesn't make much sense. But it would make sense that Pithy wouldn't be able to use Flea without taking away Shadowgale from her, unlike somebody that was actually high up in the land of magic. But either way, Flea laughed at how self-destructive she was becoming and opened the curtains. She knew that something was missing, she just didn't know what it was. Shadowgale was hidden off somewhere. Was this related to the incident at all? She realized she was being far too pessimistic. She needed to have a positive attitude. If thinking about it made no sense, then there had to be something that she had to do before she thought of it again. There weren't many staff of human resources that were suited for battle, or that was what Deluge had said. That was true, however, just because they weren't able to have destructive power doesn't mean they were incompetent. Despite not having many battle-capable staff, it only means that the rest were capable of something more. When she was certain that no one was monitoring her, Flea turned on her magical phone and began maneuvering her subordinates and collecting information. Okay, now we're seeing Monoshiri Michan, so going back to that group then. Beyond the rooftops of buildings and private residences, Michan followed Glacian's instructions to chase after a mysterious car. As soon as the car arrived at its destination, a flock of 10 demons flew in the sky. They were trying to capture the human, or perhaps magical girl that was in the car. She was able to figure out and intercept the car, not because of her name, Monoshiri, meaning know-it-all. It was because she had memorized the city map in her head and knew where to run while the car traveled. I love that. So she's Know-It-All Michan. That's an adorable name. Oh, Know-It-All Michan. That's so cute. It was because she had memorized the city map in her head and knew where to run while the car traveled. Okay. I honestly think when the official translation comes, that maybe that would be the best way to localize it for English, is to make it Know-It-All Michan. Since I don't really like that they translated Nyan Nyan to Meow Meow, but still, if they did that, they could definitely do it Know-It-All Michan, because that's adorable. It was because she'd monitored the city map in her head and knew where to run while the car traveled. They abandoned the city, making for the roads leading toward the mountains. The car kept driving around the city in a circular motion, despite losing cover as the rooftops were getting smaller and smaller, making the chase difficult. Glacian was able to offer support and led her here. Above the tunnels, she cut through the grass and passed to the national highway, then hid behind a passing truck as she kept following her target. The driver of the car was keeping to the speed of 9 kilometers per hour, and she couldn't see any impatience. He clearly wasn't driving on alert, he was driving casually. He had barely stopped at a stoplight to give pedestrians the right of way. It would have been so easy for him to get into an accident. He was far too loose to be the person in charge, or to be a person in charge. Engraved on the side of the relief was a symbol of a laurel with feathers on it. This really was the Puck faction's emblem. The window was a smoke window, so she couldn't see anyone inside clearly. They should know that Sachiko's search party was attacked. Was this the reinforcements being sent in response to that? She could only sense one person in the car. This wasn't reinforcements, this was a pickup car. That was a stupid thing to do. The 3 sages were beings that existed high up in the clouds, but were they really that detached from common sense? As she ran below the mountains and across the countryside, the tall national highway didn't suit the view of the countryside. They went back into the mountains, and Michan had to recall the map inside her head, exiting the city, appearing from the mountains. Okay. Running across the outer edge of the city, they were moving around a quarter of the circle, so they were to cut across a straight path. So if they were to cut across a straight path instead, they should have arrived at their destination earlier. Although she thought that the driver was a bit too loose, it doesn't change the fact that the earlier they arrived, the better it should have been for them. Why would they purposely go across in a circle? Did they have a reason? For example, maybe they were trying to shake off pursuers. That'd be a good reason. Did they realize she was tailing them? It didn't seem that way. It was just a car wandering aimlessly. If the driver realized that she was tailing them, they'd be much more alert. There's no need to take a detour unless they realized someone was following them. That means there was another reason for this detour. As she meandered through the mountainous roads, skipping and kicking past the trees and grass, she felt a sense of discomfort. There are reasons why someone would take a useless detour. Either they were alert that someone was following them, or there was one other reason. A decoy. The car would become bait, fishing out any enemies. There was a 90% chance of the car being a decoy, and a 10% chance they realized she was following them. Fighting right now would be a waste. However, leaving a decoy alone was also rubbing her the wrong way. She should crush them altogether. Michan gave instructions to the demons. All units to the mountain's descent. I'll be putting preparations in 30 seconds. She recalled the map in her head, and simulated the shortest path to the mountain's descent. Unlike the car, Michan would be able to use the dirt paths to cut straight toward her destination. As long as her sense of direction didn't fail her, she'd be alright. Stomping on grass, bending the trees, jumping off cliff sides, running through the valleys, she dashed through the mountains. She was familiar with the marshlands, as she's participated in Mouse School's Hell Survival games. Sometimes she'd even make it to the top members. Okay, one thing I like about this is she's becoming separated from all the other members, which makes her really prone to an attack from somebody like Ripple that would be working on their own. So I kind of get this feeling that Ripple could attack her. Either way. She arrived in the descent in 10 minutes and gave instructions to the demon wings. Her fallen leaves covered the dirt underneath the shade of the trees. Michan picked up some pebbles and placed it on her hands. Pebble to rifle. She now had an automatic rifle. Looking around, she saw a bus stop. There was an ashtray on the bus stop, and smoke was rising from the ashtray, perhaps because someone was here recently. Michan placed her palms on the smoke and balled her hands into a fist with the smoke inside of it. Vapor to fire. Okay, and now we're seeing this this panel, or this illustration of Michan with the sparkly star fire in her hand. Okay, cool. She made it twice, just in case. Then she picked up a single steel can from the trash bin next to the vending machine, crushing it, twisting it, and tearing it apart, turning it into fragments with her bare hands. The dry juice made her hands sticky, but beggars can't be choosers. Alright, time's coming up. She waited 10 more minutes, calculating the speed limit that the car was going through in the national highway to judge when it'll come at the descent. When it did, Michan jumped out into the road with the pieces of the steel cans inside her hands, waist to wall. Michan's magical skill only allowed her to create objects that she could wield in her hands. That's why she exercised. She exercised so that she could wield heavy objects in her hands. In the middle of the road, a 20 centimeter thick, 1.5 meter tall, and 2 meter wide magical iron wall appeared. She made 3 more afterwards, waist to wall, waist to wall, waist to wall. The ground shook as the 4 walls dropped, and when the foreign car slammed into them, the walls only vibrated just a little. She pulled the pin of her grenade and threw it beyond the wall. She closed her ears, opened her mouth, and slid into the side grooves of the road. Michan's special grenade blew the car 3 meters into the air before it fell. The bomb in the falling car made the trees shake and the dead leaves fly off. The walls that barely moved after being crashed by a car became scrapped by the explosion. Michan stood up from the side groove, removing the leaves that were covering her. Black smoke was rising from the car. Although not a lot of people come around here, the police might come in 5, maybe 10 minutes. Civilians may come sooner. She had to finish her job quickly and reliably. With her automatic rifle, she stepped forward cautiously before jumping and rolling away. Shuriken and kunai stabbed the concrete where she stood. Ah, the demons were rustling about. Here we go. Michan pulled the trigger of the rifle, creating a wave of bullets that dropped all the shuriken. It wasn't just one or two. Countless number of shuriken were slashing the tree branches and heading for her. She looked above her. Standing on the tallest tree was a ninja. So this makes me wonder. Why did I say work? It must have been something similar to something I just read when I was staring at what came next. But either way, it makes me wonder, like, so Ripple is now attacking Monoshiri Michan. Is Ripple... Oh, that's why I said work. I was going to say, is Ripple working with Puck Puck? Or is it just coincident that Puck Puck sent out the decoy and Ripple is like, notices the one goes off on their own away from the decoy, so she knows that she can pick this one off while they're on their own. So yeah, I'm interested in this, very much so. And it seems like Pithy shouldn't be the one manipulating Deluge and Flare, because if she was, then why would she also have Ripple going after Deluge and Flare's group? That wouldn't make very much sense. But either way, I really enjoyed it. And we'll finish off this chapter next time around. So either way, hope you enjoyed the video. Like if you did like the video, comment down there, tell me what you thought of this week's read through, what you thought of my thoughts on what I just read and all that. Subscribe for more Magical Girl Raising Project, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. If you'd like a link to the Discord server to talk to me or more of us there, just ask and I can give you a link. And if you want to help support the channel on Patreon, a link to that's in the description. It's patreon.com/Haku with the tubes. So yeah, that would help very much. But either way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.